So, what kind of bulbs are we going to use to accomplish this for such a small animal? I know back in the day, in the 90s, early 2000s, people were putting giant reptile type bulbs on top of their enclosures, a big dome like that, and animals were cooking. And of course they are. The light's way too huge. Even the smallest one of those bulbs just spreads heat everywhere. Even at an extremely low wattage, it's the heat being spread everywhere. And just raises the entire temperature of the entire enclosure. And of course, you're going to see animals get cooked when you do something like that. What I have found is GU10 bulbs here. The GU10 is the type of base that it is. MR16 is the shape, but they're generally just called GU10s. They have a little tiny halogen capsule inside. These seem to work the very best from everything I've experimented with. They have the reflector on the inside, which directs the infrared coming right out of the halogen capsule. And very importantly, if you are going to buy these, make sure they have a glass face, because these halogen capsules, when they are not filtered by glass, emit ultraviolet C, which is an extremely high energy form of light that we don't even see on Earth other than when we make it with these halogen capsules. So these GU10s are really the way to go. And this is something you can do yourself. I don't need people to buy these lights. What I really want is to push the hobby forward and give these animals a better life and better well-being. I know they can survive without them, but I like to see things move forward. I've seen so many benefits from it, and just seeing the behavior of the animals, this is something I believe in. And while I do sell a product, I'm happy to even answer questions and help somebody that just wants to do it themselves. To me, the ultimate goal is the well-being of all the animals, and that's really all I care about here. So let's talk about how to do this safely. Here I've got a list of preferred temperature ranges and averages pulled from the studies that we have on our website. We can see it does vary pretty wildly, but what we don't see is any numbers over 100 Fahrenheit. So we can pretty safely say your spider is not going to use a hot spot if it's a lot over that. Likely they'll hang out around the edges of it to kind of warm up, but they'll avoid the center. The issue with this is it makes a portion of their enclosure unusable. So starting near 100, as measured with an infrared laser therm, like you see in the picture here, is a good starting point, and you can work down or up, usually down from there. These therm guns are like $15, so there's no reason not to have one if you're going to provide heat to your animals. After you set this up, you're going to learn your animal's preferences, and if they're under the light all day, likely it's not hot enough. And if they're going to the edges of it but not the center, it's probably too hot. The great thing about these little GU10 bulbs is the heat they put out is highly directional. So you can have a 100-degree hot spot up on the corner and then temps down in the low 70s near the bottom of the enclosure. That is assuming your enclosure is large enough. You want to be certain something about the size of a tennis ball or a softball, roughly, depending on the size of the bulb, won't take up about 25% of the enclosure. These bulbs do vary pretty wildly in their output, so best practice is going to be to do a little testing outside of the enclosure to see what kind of distances are needed to hit those temps. Typically nothing over 25 watts is needed if they're a clear face bulb, and nothing over 35 watts if it's a frosted face bulb. The bulbs available on our website have undergone a ton of testing, and there'll be power density charts and guidance to kind of get you pretty close to that right off the bat. For screen top enclosures, they block about 25% of the infrared, so you're going to have to keep that in mind when you set your distances. You may need a hair closer than your tests outside of the enclosure. And here's some notes for acrylic enclosures. They seem to only block about 7% of the infrared, even at varying thicknesses of the acrylic. It's still about 7%. So the distances are going to change very little. Now for the most important safety info of this video. Most acrylic enclosures are made of polymethyl methacrylate, or PMMA. This has a thermal stability of 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This means it shouldn't be exposed to temps above that for long periods of time. How do you confirm this? Clear acrylic being what it is, you can't just point a laser therm at it and get an accurate reading. What you'll need to do is make a small patch of black with electrical tape or something similar and leave it for an hour or so. Now you can get nice and close and take a fairly accurate reading with your laser therm. You don't want to be much higher than 130 F Fahrenheit or 54 Celsius, because these thermometers are generally only guaranteed to be accurate within about 10% or so. These are the basics to begin trying to accomplish this safely. I've been providing heat for nearly 2 years and would never go back. I've done a lot of experimenting with very precise tools like power density meters for measuring infrared, thermal imaging cameras, thermocouplers, and laser thermometers to get me to the point that I'm confident not only providing safe information, but effective information, and most importantly to me, a safe product. In closing, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for advocating for this, but it's something based on my experience and the science that I know will increase well-being and the lifespan of your animals. So until next time, stay weird and feel free to reach out with questions.